On the morning of September 3rd, the FBI arrested two Chinese-American citizens, Linda Sun and her husband, Christopher Hu, at a mansion in Long Island, New York. Sun is accused of being a secret agent for the Chinese government. At the same time, media outlets reported that due to this case, China's Consul General in New York, Huang Ping, has been expelled from the United States. The U.S. has recently been intensifying its efforts to investigate how Chinese diplomats are conducting transnational repression in America. They're cracking down on illegal Chinese government agents. The Linda Sun case has shaken the Chinese-American community, highlighting how deeply the Chinese government has infiltrated both U.S. government agencies and Chinese diaspora groups. Since this case is the third Chinese spy case to enter U.S. legal proceedings in the past month, following the Tang Yuanjun and Wang Shujun cases, it has further drawn attention to Beijing's intelligence activities in America. People are curious about who Linda Sun really is. How did her arrest also lead to the expulsion of China's Consul General in New York? A case involving espionage charges has now escalated into a matter affecting U.S.-China relations. Sun, who is 41 years old, was born in China. She moved to the U.S. with her parents at the age of 5 and later became a U.S. citizen. She is fluent in Chinese. Sun holds a bachelor's degree in political science from Barnard College and a master's degree in education from Columbia University. Over the past 15 years, she has held several positions in New York state government. She first served as chief of staff to former state assemblywoman Grace Meng and later worked for former Governor Andrew Cuomo's administration, primarily as a community liaison for Queens and the local Asian community. In September 2021, after Kathy Hochul became governor of New York, Sun was appointed as deputy chief of staff. In November 2022, she transitioned to become the deputy commissioner of the Labor Department, but she left that position 5 months later. She was the highest-ranking Asian American in the state government at the time. Christopher Hu, 41, is Linda Sun's husband. He runs several businesses in New York, including a seafood export company, a wine shop, and a financial consulting firm. He frequently relied on services provided by Chinese government-authorized shipping agents. According to a press release from the U.S. Department of Justice, a federal court unsealed a 65-page indictment accusing Linda Sun of violating and conspiring to violate the Foreign Agents Registration Act, FARA. Charges include committing visa fraud, smuggling foreigners, and conspiracy to commit money laundering. Her husband and co-defendant, Christopher Hu, was also charged with conspiracy to commit money laundering, bank fraud, and identity theft. In a statement, U.S. Attorney Breon P. said, as alleged, while appearing to serve the people of New York as Deputy Chief of Staff within the New York State Executive Chamber, the defendant and her husband actually worked to further the interests of the Chinese government and the CCP. Avi Small, a spokesperson for Governor Kathy Hochul, stated that Sun had been employed by the governor's executive chamber more than a decade ago. Upon discovering evidence of misconduct, her employment was terminated in March 2023, and the matter was immediately reported to law enforcement. The governor's office fully cooperated with authorities throughout the investigation. Both Linda Sun and Chris Hu were released on bail the same day they were arrested. Sun's bail was set at $1.5 million US, while Hu's was set at $500,000. Their next court appearance is scheduled for September 25th. The judge has also restricted their travel to New York City, Long Island, and the states of Maine and New Hampshire. It is publicly believed that Linda Sun's Chinese superior was China's State Consul General in New York, Huang Ping. After Sun's arrest, New York Governor Kathy Hochul stated at an event that she hoped the authorities would expel China's Consul General. Later, the governor received news that the Consul General was no longer part of New York's diplomatic mission. Rumors began circulating that Huang Ping had already been expelled. However, U.S. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller clarified in a subsequent press conference that the U.S. government had not expelled the Consul General. According to Miller, the Consul General had simply left the post in August after completing the regular rotation cycle. A spokesperson from the Chinese consulate in New York denied that Huang Ping's departure was due to external pressure, stating that he was fulfilling his duties as usual. Although both the US and Chinese governments denied any link between Huang Ping's departure and Linda Sun's arrest, some commentators believe that Huang Ping was directly involved in guiding Sun to commit illegal activities. His actions went beyond the typical functions of a diplomat. As the Sun case develops, many believe that Huang Ping's expulsion from the US is only a matter of time, and that he was likely recalled by China to avoid embarrassment. Publicly available information shows that the U.S. prosecutor's indictment includes numerous emails and text messages detailing how, from 2016 to 2022, Sun closely followed the instructions of the Chinese consulate and acted as a secret agent for the Chinese Communist Party, CCP. She participated in many political activities that aligned with the interests of China and the CCP. Many of these messages came directly from Huang Ping. According to U.S. law, individuals acting on behalf of a foreign country or political party must register as foreign agents, but Sun never did this. The prosecutor stated that Sun, a naturalized U.S. citizen born in China, actively concealed the fact that she was acting under the orders, instructions, or demands of Chinese government officials and representatives. In the indictment, Sun is also accused of using her position to block any contact between the Taiwanese government and the New York State government. In June 2016, during the Select USA Investment Summit in Washington, D.C., the Taipei Economic and Cultural Office, TECO, in New York, sought to meet with high-level New York officials, including the governor and lieutenant governor. After consulting the Chinese consulate, Sun actively interfered to prevent these meetings. After Chinese officials expressed their gratitude, Sun replied, "Everything has been properly handled." It's worth noting that Governor Hochul attended the Select USA reception in 2016, which was co-hosted by the Chinese Embassy in the U.S. and the China General Chamber of Commerce USA, not by Taiwan. In January 2019, Sun wrote to Chinese officials stating, "I greatly value my relationship with the consulate, and during my time serving the governor, I have worked hard to foster a flourishing relationship between the state and the consulate. Of course, I have successfully terminated all relationships between TECO and the state, and I have rejected every request from their office." A senior official from the Chinese consulate responded, "I'm aware of and deeply appreciate your assistance. You are the most important link between our political department and the #1 official and his team in the state." After this, every time Taiwanese officials attempted to engage with the state government, Sun would consult with the Chinese consulate and, following their instructions, worked tirelessly to block any communication between Taiwanese officials and the New York governor's office. She ensured that Taiwan had no opportunities to make diplomatic headway. In July 2019, when Taiwan's then-president Tsai Ing-wen visited New York, Sun brazenly joined local Chinese community leaders in Manhattan to protest against Tsai's visit. In January 2021, when Chinese officials asked if the New York governor would record a message for the Lunar New Year, Sun asked them what talking points they wanted. The Chinese officials responded, mainly holiday greetings and hopes for friendly cooperation. They added, "Don't make it too political." Later, Sun told Chinese Consul General Huang Ping that she had argued with Kathy Hochul's speechwriter, insisting they remove any criticism of Beijing's treatment of Uyghurs from the governor's speech. Huang Ping personally praised her for this. Sun also drafted fake invitation letters for Chinese political figures to travel to the U.S. and wrote unauthorized appointment letters to add a Chinese compatriot to the New York State Governor's Asian American Advisory Committee. Sun's active efforts in serving the CCP earned her significant praise from Chinese authorities. In return, Linda Sun received substantial financial and other benefits from the Chinese government and its representatives. These included facilitating multi-million-dollar business deals for her husband in China, covering all expenses for their trips to China, tickets to top performances, concerts, and sports events, securing a job for Sun's cousin in China, and even receiving Nanjing-styled salted duck prepared by private chefs of Chinese government officials. According to the indictment, this delicacy was delivered to Sun on at least 16 different occasions, sometimes even directly to her parents' home. The couple laundered their illegal earnings by purchasing luxury assets such as a 5-bedroom mansion in Long Island, New York, currently valued at $4.1 million, a condominium in Honolulu, currently valued at $2.1 million, and several luxury cars, including a 2024 Ferrari Roma, a 2024 Land Rover Range Rover L460, and a 2022 Mercedes GLB 250 W4. Prosecutors have already taken steps to seize these properties and vehicles and have also frozen around $210,000 in cash and several bank accounts. The U.S. Department of Justice stated that Linda Sun never registered as a foreign agent with the Attorney General, deliberately concealing the fact that she was acting on the orders and instructions of the Chinese government and its representatives. She also failed to disclose any of the benefits she received from the Chinese government, which she was required to report as a New York State government employee. Former CIA China analyst Dennis Wilder commented on X, saying, "This is a classic MSS operation, targeted on naturalized American with connections in China, state government for the struggle with Taiwan." Hofstra University law professor Julian Koo tweeted, "The allegations in this case illustrate how useful influence agents can be to the PRC in shaping U.S. policy, even at the local state level." Pro-democracy leader Wang Dan pointed out that Linda Sun had previously worked as an assistant to Grace Meng, one of the most prominent Asian representatives in New York, before moving into the New York State government as deputy chief of staff to the governor. Her position was highly sensitive, giving her access to many key secrets and direct involvement in important state government decisions. This makes her espionage activities more dangerous than any similar case in the past. Wang Dan believes that this case will have a profound impact on the security of the U.S. government and China-U.S. relations. This case not only exposes corruption within the New York State government, but also brings the complex diplomatic relations between the U.S. and China into the spotlight. The U.S. Department of Justice emphasized the importance of the FARA Act and stated that it will aggressively crack down on any unregistered foreign agent activities. On September 3rd, the day Linda Sun and Christopher Hu were arrested, The Washington Post released an investigative report. The report revealed a 6-month investigation into violent incidents during President Xi Jinping's visit to San Francisco last November. It uncovered that Chinese diplomats were involved in organizing attacks by pro-CCP supporters against protesters. The report found that the Chinese government, through its local embassies, various overseas Chinese offices, and student associations, intensified its surveillance and control over overseas Chinese communities. They are carrying out transnational repression, suppressing the right of overseas Chinese to exercise their freedom of speech. The Washington Post investigation analyzed 2,000 photos and 21 hours of video from the last November 2 events. They interviewed over 35 witnesses, U.S. officials, and analysts, as well as reviewed text messages between U.S. security personnel working with Chinese diplomats, information shared in Chinese diaspora WeChat groups, and various medical and police reports. The report confirmed that at least 4 Chinese diplomats participated in the protests. 2 were from the Los Angeles consulate, including the Deputy Consul General and a consular officer, while 2 others worked at the San Francisco consulate. All these diplomats enjoyed diplomatic immunity. By reviewing WeChat messages, it was found that the Chinese consulate in Los Angeles provided hotel accommodations and meals as compensation to participants in pro-CCP activities. During the protests at the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit, APEC Summit, at least 35 pro-CCP Chinese diaspora groups were present, including groups from New York, Pennsylvania, and Washington State. According to 7 event organizers, Chinese diplomats hired at least 60 private security personnel to protect the groups of Chinese diaspora members who came to welcome Xi Jinping. The investigation identified 32 Chinese community leaders who helped organize these pro-CCP groups, many of whom have ties to the Chinese authorities. The founder of the Southern California Chinese Community Federation, Lu Qiang, told the U.S. Chinese language media World Journal that he used his resources as a travel agency to organize 20 buses, book 400 hotel rooms, and coordinate 800 people to arrive at the APEC summit to welcome Xi Jinping. Lu previously served as a member of the Overseas Committee of the Shanghai Overseas Chinese Federation and was invited to attend the National Committee of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, CPPCC. FBI Director Christopher Wray expressed concern over the rampant Chinese espionage and terrorism, emphasizing that the U.S. will strengthen interagency cooperation to deal with the unprecedented security situation. The Chinese authorities have also infiltrated overseas Chinese pro-democracy circles, recruiting and using former democracy activists to help monitor dissidents. 2 typical examples are Tang Yuanjun and Wang Shujun, who were arrested by the FBI last month. Tang Yuanjun was sentenced to 20 years in prison for participating in the Tiananmen Square protests of June 4, 1989, but eventually gained political asylum in the U.S. through Taiwan. He continued his involvement in overseas Chinese pro-democracy activities. However, in 2018, he began following the instructions of China's Ministry of State Security, MSS, monitoring overseas Chinese democracy activists and dissidents, and reporting information to the MSS. He also helped the MSS infiltrate encrypted chat groups used by many dissidents. Not long ago, Wang Shujun, a Chinese-American scholar known for his long-standing anti-CCP stance and involvement in overseas pro-democracy movements, was convicted in New York by a U.S. federal court of acting as a Chinese government agent, illegally possessing identification, and making false statements to law enforcement. On August 6, a jury in the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of New York found him guilty on 4 counts, and he faces up to 25 years in prison. Vice Chairman of the China Democratic Front, Sheng Yue, who lives in Toronto, told Voice of America that in her 35 years of working in overseas pro-democracy movements, she has witnessed many instances of Chinese infiltration and repression. They target pro-democracy, anti-CCP, and human rights organizations. She said this has become particularly severe in recent years. She noted that after over 30 years, many people find their ideals difficult to realize, and some are more susceptible to fame and fortune. The CCP seizes this moment to offer promises, benefits, and resources, and many people take the bait, sometimes even without realizing it. Wang Juntao resides in New York and is the co-chair of the China Democracy Party National Committee. He pointed out that the CCP's tactics often involve coercing and enticing individuals under China's national security law and intelligence law, especially those who need to return to China or who have relatives with interests to address. These individuals are pressured to provide intelligence or spread defamatory information about overseas pro-democracy activities and individuals. Beyond the U.S., the CCP's infiltration and intelligence systems are global. On September 4th, former mayor of Bongbong City in the Philippines, Huang Ping, was arrested in Jakarta, Indonesia, and now faces extradition back to the Philippines. Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos issued a statement saying Guo's arrest should serve as a warning that attempting to evade justice is futile, as the long arm of the law will reach them. In July 2024, Guo became a target of the Philippine Senate for refusing to attend a hearing investigating her suspected connections with Chinese criminal syndicates. She is suspected of being a CCP-arranged red spy in the Philippine government. On September 3rd, New Zealand's Security Intelligence Service stated in its annual report that China remains a complex intelligence issue for New Zealand.